Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is June Liu. How you doing, June?
Doing good. It's getting colder, so we're hitting that season now.
Yeah, autumn.
Yep.
So tonight we are talking about the Espinosa Pier 28 Habano Robusto. This cigar is 5-inch by 52 ring gauge, comes out of the La Zona factory in Nicaragua. The wrapper is Ecuadorian Habano Cafe. Binder is from Nicaragua, and the filler is Nicaraguan and Dominican Republic. The blender is listed as Tim Wong and Hector Alfonso. Price point is $7.99, and this was released at IPCPR this year, so July of 2016. So with all the cigar details out of the way, let's get into our pre-light experience. So June, what was your pre-light like?
I thought the Pure 20 had like a nice medium brown Colorado Claro wrapper shade to it. So really pretty wrapper. It was smooth. Had a good amount of oil content on it. Seems pretty well hidden. Veins well pressed. Bunching roll feels. It felt like it was done well. Had a firm and even give to the entire cigar. The head on the Parejo head finish off with a well adhered triple cap. And I was talking to, well, usually I don't talk about band, but with this one, I feel like I could contribute something that's not. uh, so, um, so Tim being of Chinese descent, he called it Pier 28, Pier in the sense of where he grew up with, which is the San Francisco Bay Area. I believe San Francisco is kind of where he did grow up, at actual San Francisco. And then the 28 has significance because certain numbers, there's meanings behind it, in which the 2 represents easy, or like with ease, and 8 means wealth. So 28 literally translates, obtaining wealth easily.
Hmm.
So that's what that 28 number means. It's not like it's a basketball player or like football player or something. So, and I think on one side of the band, there's a Chinese character, and that stands for Wong, which is Tim's last name. And on the other side of it, there's like a little, and I think that represents the Golden Gate Bridge, or is it the Bay Bridge?
Hmm.
So it's one of the major bridges that we have here. So
Right.
anyway, the more you know. I'm sorry. Oh, the actual pre-light experience.
Yeah, get past the Chinese culture stuff. Let's
Yeah,
get into the cigar
sorry.
itself.
I'm trying to give you a little knowledge. Uh, so, wrapper aroma. I got namely some quality cedar to it. Foot, barnyard, dry white pepper, natural tobacco sweetness. And on the cold draw, I got some dry cardboard, some lip tingling dry white pepper, and some cedar. So, all in all, I rated the pre-light experience very good.
Mhm. Yeah, the wrapper was like a medium brown color. It had a couple of visible veins. The seams were nearly invisible. Um, 3 caps that were applied really nicely. The band is primarily black and silver, with a little bit of yellow in there as well. The aroma from the wrapper was like a light hay and a leather, and the foot aroma was a sweet grassiness. Pre-light draw gave like a light black tea, and there was also like a slight spicy tingle on my lips. So that was kind of an interesting pre-light draw on this cigar with the black tea. So getting the flavor first or to final for third, what was your experience like?
Um, for me, when I mean, from just first draw, I got a lot of richness in the palate, in spice, wood, and like the sweet creaminess. And specifically, when I talk about those 3 components, or 4 rather, I'm talking about like a really like a tongue layering, caking dry white pepper. I'm sorry, black pepper, a very sharp cedar, like a toasted sweetbread. So the best way I could kind of describe this toasted sweetbread is like, um, so like especially in my childhood, I ate a lot of King's Hawaiian bread, and it's just really sweet. Not really sweet, but it's a very sweet bread, and that's toasted. And I got some dry bitter walnuts. So on the retro, uh, very intense nasal clearing black pepper, sharp cedar, and some residual spicy heat. And on the finish, a very mouthful of rich black pepper, sharp cedar, and the dry and bitter walnuts. In terms of strength and body, strength was medium full, body in between medium and medium full. So interesting to note that this is definitely one of the uh, powerhouses ish cigars, but with a lot of richness and complexities. So moving on to the second third, still kind of it has the same amount of richness that carries forth. The pepper actually died down by about 40%, so that kind of allowed the dry bitter walnuts and the sweet bread to come up to the forefront. So through the retro, still that same amount of fierce spice, in addition to sharp cedar and that residual spicy heat. Finish continued to be rich black pepper, sharp cedar, and dry and bitter walnuts. Strength still medium full, and body still somewhere between medium full. Moving on to the last third. It's interesting. So the last third, talking about the black pepper spice, due to just the mouth draws, I would say at that point it's probably like 80% less than what I had in the first third.
Mm.
So it just, for me, just really died down throughout the entire smoking experience, in which I'm usually used to the opposite way, right? Where the spice will kind of build as the burn transitions. Still getting that richness in the sense of that sweet bread, sharp cedar, dry bitter walnuts. On the retro, what's interesting about that black pepper is on the retro, I still get it, which is really nice because I think a good cigar should have some sort of spice.
Mm-hmm.
So on the retro, I was able to get that still in combination of with the sharp cedar and that residual spicy heat. Finish, it was, and within the last third of finish was more lingering with like a slight charred wood, still getting that bitter walnuts and the sharp cedar. Strength still medium full, and body somewhere between medium full. And speaking of body for me on this guy, I typically will not talk about body being medium full unless if it's like a really hearty broadleaf,
Mm-hmm.
in which some of the broadleaf can definitely be to the absolute fullest mark. But I feel like within this body, it sometimes will play with my head because I would think about especially the spice level and the heat, the spicy residual heat, to carry forth in just the richness and like the oiliness of the profile. Leaves like a really good amount of, it really cakes your palate. So it's different. Like, whereas I feel like broadleaf is more like whole milk body,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas this is more like combination of like spice, and even wood, that's kind of combining it to, and that oily richness that gives it body.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but
For me, the initial draw was about a combination of like slightly spicy cedar and black tea. Then a quarter inch in, that black tea kind of morphed into an herbal note, and that was kind of going along with the slightly spicy cedar. But after a few draws, that black tea came back in to create like that an herbal black tea, which was really nice, and that the spicy cedar was still there. Half inch in, the cedar transitioned to oak, and a big dose of cream came in to also mix with that herbal black tea note that I was getting. The retrohale was just a really creamy oak at that point. Then at an inch in, that herbal black tea leaves the mouth flavor, but the creamy oak remained. But that in the retrohale, that herbal black tea came into that to mix with the creamy oak in the background. And an inch and a quarter in, that herbal black tea came back into the profile to mix with that creamy oak. And that's kind of how the first third finished. And the strength in the first third for me was right at medium. Getting into the second third, the oak gained a little bit of a char, while the cream remained, and that herbal black tea was kind of light and in the background. At a half inch in, that slightly charred and creamy oak remains. The herbal black tea kind of picked up in intensity again. And then at 3/4 of an inch in, the char goes away, and that profile is back to that creamy oak and the herbal black tea note. Retrohale is primarily creamy oak, a little bit of herbal black tea in the background. At an inch and a quarter, the char came back to the oak. The herbal black tea went away. The retrohale kind of just went back to just oak, and that's kind of how the second third finished. And the strength bumped up just a little bit to just be slightly above medium. And then getting into the final third, creamy oak, just oak on the retrohale. At a 1/4 inch in, that herbal component returns, but it didn't have black tea with it. And at 3/4 of an inch in, a good amount of cream joins back in on the retrohale. And then at an inch in, that herbal note turns into a little bit of mintiness, and that's going along with the creamy oak that's remaining. The retrohale was still creamy oak at that point, and that's kind of the profile that the cigar finished with. And it bumped up in strength again to medium full. So it really just was medium, slightly above medium, and then medium full kind of as the transition through the thirds. So getting into performance, burn and draw, what was your experience like?
Starting with the burn overall is really good. I smoked the Robusto in 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is fantastic burn time. My burn line was wavy half the time, but the important thing is, within every draw, all the leaves kind of burn in unison together. So I was able to taste all the different tobaccos in unison. Um, Ash, flaky, fell on the floor a few times, but it doesn't really but bother me that much because
Mm,
unless if it's like this hot ash that falls on my leg and burns the shit out of it, which
right.
has happened recently, uh, then I don't really care. So now into the draw, very good draw. It was ever so slightly loose for my liking,
Mhm.
but no real complaints. As I was able to taste all the flavors with no issues at all.
Yeah, the burn for me was pretty good. The burn line stayed even. It was jagged pretty much the entire time, but like you said, everything was kind of staying together. So really the jagged edge doesn't really bother me all that much. Ash held on about inch and a half increments, and like you were saying, it was a little bit flaky. I didn't necessarily get the whole ash that just like kind of dropped off on me. I would just get little like a few little flakes that would just kind of drop off as the ash was sitting there. So and not really that big of a deal, but I just thought I'd mention it. Um, Draw was perfect through the first two thirds, and then it got a little tighter in the final third. But it wasn't anything that really caused any issues with the smoking experience. It just it was definitely notice. It was something I noticed because I had such a great draw from the first two thirds, and then it kind of just tightened up a little bit. So, um, kind of I noted that there as well. So overall, what were your thoughts on the cigar?
Um, I think this is probably one of my favorites, if not the favorite, like a bold and rich cigar that comes out of La Zona.
Hmm.
It's the other one that comes to mind is the Cornelius Anthony Venganza that we just recently reviewed.
Hmm.
But so in other words, I really enjoy the cigar. I remember smoking two of these at the show and going, "Oh my gosh, what is this thing?" Right? Like who's Tim
Right.
Wong? What's Pier 28? So I guess kind of with that said, I feel like this is going to be definitely like an under the radar kind of cigar for a lot of folks.
Hmm.
And but I mean, it's there. I mean that Lojero, spice punch is there, richness is there, and just really pleasant flavor experience. So I hope that a lot of folks get to see these on the
Hmm.
shelves. I know that I believe it's namely a West Coast distribution cigar at this point.
Right.
So hopefully, Tim and Hector and Lazona folks will, see this in wider distribution with more popularity. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I mean, I highly recommend it. It was interesting. I was in Reno this past weekend, and I was at Fumer, Dion's shop of Illugioni, and for the most part, I mean, Dion puts in his humidor what he uh, believes are good cigars.
Hmm.
And this was actually there in all the Vitolas.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised to see that, and it was kind of neat to get an understanding of a little bit more understanding of Dion's personal, take on other cigars that he enjoys smoking.
Right. Yeah, I thought this was a fantastic cigar. I mean, the tea and the herbal notes, those were ones I really enjoyed. The profile was really dynamic over the first two thirds. So, it was just really changing back and forth on various draws, things like that. Um, but I also know that not everybody likes herbal or tea notes in their cigars, so it really may not be a cigar for everybody. Strength profile at least for me, wasn't one that I don't think would deter most smokers because it was medium and it kind of got medium full at the end. So I think people should really seek this out and give it a try. Tons of flavor, not a ton of strength. So it's it's just something that you can kind of really sit back and enjoy and just kind of go with the flow and take what the cigar's given you. Like you said, I smoked a few of these. They've all been very enjoyable. So I haven't really seen any changes in them being consistent or anything like that. Um, but even though price doesn't factor into our scores, the price on this cigar is really good too. So for a cigar that packs this much flavor into it and it's priced this well, it's really something that you could see being someone's kind of regular rotation type cigar. And it would it's definitely something I would continue to smoke in my leisure time. So when I'm not smoking for reviews and things like that, this is definitely something that I would reach for to kind of have that experience again. So let's talk about scores. You gave this cigar an 8.20. I gave it an 8.00. So how do you think your score matches up with your experience?
I think it matches up really well. The reality of it is, it's just a really good, rich, oily cigar with, building complexities and just the flavors just work really well together.
Mm-hmm.
And so great in that sense. A little taken off on the construction aspect of it, but nothing major. So, I mean, overall, this is a winner, and I loved it. Just like you were saying. I mean, when I think about cigars that I always go back to that are within our population of review cigars, this is one of them,
Mm-hmm.
and this will continuously be one of them for years to come.
Yeah, yeah. My score matches up really well with the experience, and it's a very good score. It was a very good cigar, so they just went. It just goes hand in hand. It's the true experience that I had. So all I can say is find them if you're not on the West Coast or in the Western U.S. Find somebody that you can get them from. Check online, West Coast shops, but it's definitely worth something to seek out. I did have a question I wanted to ask you about the cigar.
Hmm.
Something I kind of noticed with it was it took me I won't say a really long time. It took me on average more time to light this cigar than most other cigars. Have you had that experience with this? Because I've had that experience with um, uh, all the ones that I've smoked. Did you notice that or not really pay attention?
Like when you're toasting it in the beginning.
Yeah, the toasting and the initial light.
Oh, I don't really notice that in general.
Okay.
Uh, it takes me a while to toast cigars because
Hmm.
I'm using this new Zycar cigar that I'm trying to use and that we're trying to review later.
Right.
And this is a single torch, and it just takes me a freaking long time to do it.
Yeah.
But no, not normally longer than usual that I've
Okay.
noticed.
I mean,
What is,
it's not like a big problem or anything. It just seems like it takes a little bit long. Like I do my normal toasting on it, like I would do on almost any cigar, and it feels like I'm ready to go. But it's really just the outer ring that's kind of lit. It's the tobacco that's more in the middle of the cigar just hasn't gotten there yet. And I'm toasting it evenly.
yeah.
It's not igniting quite
Well,
yet. So
I do know that, for instance, and Eric Espinosa was talking about in some of like a Smoke Night Live and some of the other media video casts out there, that one of the things that he likes to do in a lot of his cigars is to add a little pinch of Ligero in the beginning to get that
mhm,
pop. And I do know that Ligero takes,
right,
it's not as combustible as other tobacco. So
sure,
it may be that, but I'm purely speculating, of course.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this cigar?
No, I feel bad for people that live in non-West Coast places.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for watching. If you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us. But also check out the website for the full written review, developingpalates.com. Be sure to follow us on all the social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google+. Thanks again for watching, and we will catch you on the next video.